What's up, y'all? It's Ben here and welcome back to another Pokemon Pocket update video for you all. Today we are looking at what the landscape of the meta is. Has it changed? Are things coming up? And are we in a good place for other types of decks to survive? Well, we're gonna go ahead and dig right into that right now. Before we get into everything, just quickly want to say that only about 2% of you who are watching right now are subscribed. So if you're new here, just know that we have a goal of hitting 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And so I definitely need your help to get there. So if you enjoy this content, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and click that notification bell button so that way you do not miss out on the daily content that's on this channel. Alright, without further ado, let's just get back into it. So the metagame is actually shaping up really nicely in Pokemon Pocket as we're starting to see more diversified field and even more creative brews for this game. I think the name of the game has been the more basics that you're putting into your deck, the better and more consistent it has been. I think we've gone from only seeing 4 to now like 5, 6 to really make sure that you're getting that power out there as soon as you can. Now, one of the biggest things to still note is that Mewtwo Gardevoir decks are still very dominant. They still remain at the top of the meta. And when I say top of the meta, we take a look at like the tournaments that continue to happen across, right? Like you have Ursa Day's tournament, which is over 1,000 players. You have like different tournaments like the Pocket Legends, you get like the Pika Cups as well. So it's like really cool that they have all of these, and typically these are free to sign up. So if y'all are interested, let me know in the comments and I can tell you exactly where to look. But in like these 3 big tournaments, Mewtwo is around 30%, 30 to 35% of player's choice. Now, the number in like the top 8s that they're securing, they're still looking at like 20% in the top 8. I mean, even one tournament, 5 spots of the tournament, 5 of the top 8 spots was Mewtwo Gardevoir. Now, the interesting part is that you have your standard Mewtwo build here with baby Mewtwo that's up front, and some folks have actually tried to use this variant right here where it does include Jinx, so that way they can have some different types of decks, some type of different tech for more like defensive strategies and ways to attack, especially for those who are looking to be power hungry and it only is worth 1 point. Now, despite their prevalence though, they did not win first place. The top spot went to a Charizard EX deck, which is huge, right? So like, people are saying like Mewtwo EX is the deck to beat. Let's take this Charizard EX and Arcanine variant and see what we can do. Whether you call it Archarizard or Charcanine, vote for which name is better. Put that down below in the comments. I actually want to know what this is, what y'all think. But this list right here actually made it to the finals. There was a mirror match. It was going against each other. And so this was a huge standout and a huge plug to see that like folks are throwing more basics in their deck. Folks are being more creative in like what they're trying to do and is coming out on top. So that was really cool to see that this deck won. And another standout in the tournament was the Wigglytuff EX deck, which was boosted by like the new promo Jigglypuff card, already starting to see some kind of traction in tournaments. Definitely have to keep an eye out on this one. However, this deck made it to a top 8 placing, which is like pretty cool. And so you're running your promo Jigglypuffs, your Wigglytuffs, your Coughings, your Wheezing, and they decided to add in Meowth to try to improve on their consistency when it comes to drawing their decks. Now, I'm not a Meowth believer. I'll tell you that. I don't know if like, you know, like you're losing a point and you do have an EX1 in here, so it can be scary. So maybe this is one of those ones where it's like Meowth's up front, Weezing's tanking and Koga and bouncing and doing all those things, so that way it's living that way and you can like stall it for more time because of how big you have as Weezing. We all know that's great. So this is a more interesting one for sure. I'm not sure what I would put into place for Meowth, but hey, they use this list to get to a top 8 where you're facing against Mewtwo's, Charizards, and Pikachus and all of the sorts. So that was a really cool deck that like got highlighted out here. Another surprising trend of the tournament was the resurgence of water decks, right? And I think it's kind of like this flow piece, y'all, because this idea that it's like, hey, what are we gonna do to fight the Mewtwo decks and the Pikachu decks? Because these two are like more prevalent right now. We're gonna come up with Charizard and Arcanine because they can deal with the both of them, with whether speed or power, whichever way you want to go. Now that fire decks are starting to come out, it's winning a tournament. What can we do against that? We go to water, and this Articuno EX Greninja deck showcases Articuno, baby Articunos, like again, using those basics, using those high HP mon as a way to pivot, as a way to stall out, as a way to build up as what you need. And then you have your Greninja line here in the back, which again, you can play around with having 2 Greninjas or just the one that's in this list. If you have time to build up on it, again, you don't need energy on your Greninja in order to attack, so that is kind of wonderful here. And the Misties, you know, if you high roll, and like that's sometimes what you can do, but they're definitely taking advantage of the rising popularity of the fire decks and the declining presence of Pikachu decks because they're having a hard time against the, you know, the Charizard and Arcanine. But this was like the best water deck, and it made it to a top 4 after being undefeated in the Swiss rounds. We actually tested this deck out on the channel, and it feels really, really good, y'all. It feels really good. And then Pikachu is still trying to figure out its identity now, right? And I think the real cool part about the Pikachu decks is that they, because of Pikachu's like ability, you really just need to play around with the combination of electric that you need on your bench in order to make that happen. And with this, what they're really looking to do is having Electrode, Zapdos to help support Pikachu. Electrode here is pretty good at having like consistent damage that you can get pretty early. That retreat cost of being free is no joke, and so while you're attacking right away, or if you're like, hey, I'm not getting my basics that I need, you power up your Electrode and you are dealing 70 damage, which is a lot to deal with, right? Like 2 energy for 70 is no joke. It's only 20 less than what the Pikachu's doing, but you can get that with the Electrode. The only thing that you're worried about is your health, but again, with the free retreat cost, you ain't got to worry too much about that. And so it definitely counters like the fire heavy decks because they're taking their time to build up if they're not getting their ramp out right away. Moltres EX is also on a back pedal because his weakness is to lightning or electricity, and so that is really cool to see, again, the Pikachu kind of adapt to what it's seeing in its metagame. Now, here are some other cool like off-meta style decks that are still doing pretty good. They're still dealing with some numbers, and if you want to run through these and like have a good time and a fun time, definitely check these out. So you have things like Machamp Kabutops, where it's running your Machamp line, it's running your Fossils line, and then you have Onix. What's really cool about this deck is that it really only runs 3 basics, so you are one guaranteed to draw your basic, and then if you're using your Pokeballs, you know that you're going to get one or the other because the fossils don't count here, so you will have that consistent draw on getting these things out. Having that Brock powers up your Onix really quickly, so like by turn 2 your Onix is on and you're dealing 70 pretty quickly. And then while Kabutops is pretty cool here, I think one of the things that hurts it is that like it can't outlive the top meta, you know, attacks from Mewtwo and from Charizard, but that is where you have Machamp here because it does tank one of those big hits and pops off right back with its Mega Punch right there. So this is a really cool deck, and I really do like the fact that fighting can still make a name for itself, carve itself out a little niche in that sense. Another interesting deck here is the Greninja Arbok deck, right? And so baby Mewtwo, you search up basic mons by HP and you will have Snorlax, and then you'll see Mewtwo, and Mewtwo here is usually one of the better choices for when you're looking for ways to pivot. So Mewtwo serves as a stall and a stall only. You're literally only putting an energy on here when you're getting this thing ready to get out, but this gives you time to make sure that your Arbok is set up, your Greninjas are set up, and now you are set up to get yourself ready for Pikachu, which Arbok can take on if there's no Giovanni. You're getting yourself ready to deal damage to those fire types because you have your Greninja. And if they're not taking out this Mewtwo, you can attack in the backline or retreat and set up that corner there, and like that is pretty good to make sure that you're finishing off your opponents how you want to and not letting them dictate how they're going to play out and use their energy to retreat. And this last cool one that I really wanted to shout out goes to my boy Blastos. Blastoise is starting to creep up a little bit, but this is awesome. Again, the resurgence of Water Dex is allowing this mon to finally breathe. It definitely in the beginning has let its other Kanto counterparts in Charizard and Venusaur take the light, but people are starting to see that like this Hydro Bazooka, once it's online, ain't nothing can do with it, right? And so what do you do while you're waiting for this thing to power up, right? You have your Starmie EX, which is the best stage 1 card in the game. Like if you think otherwise, let me know down in the comments, but I'm gonna tell you that you're wrong, because this is the best one. Free retreat, 2 energy, 90 damage, and high HP stat. Like what are we doing here, folks? What are we doing here? And so this is really cool. I've seen some variants play out where they swap out the Squirtle for a red card. Play your basics, folks. This make sure that you have consistency, that you get your Blastoise, but your early game is really dependent upon drawing onto that Starmie EX, and then you're finishing out the games with the Blastoise EX because you can pivot for free retreat costs at any point. Ridiculous. So yeah, y'all, as we see, the meta, the landscape of it all is continuing to ever evolve as people are starting to figure out ways to play the game. People are now getting more access to the cards as the games are going along, which is also exciting to see like how things are changing. And it's looking like Charizard is on the rise to be the deck to beat. We're gonna give it a couple of shakes to see what's going on, see if there's any drop-offs for the top other 2 decks. But with the Charizard decks coming out, we're getting Water decks coming out, and it just feels like there's room to breathe and kind of play in this world of, hey, I want to try this out. Let me see if I can do that. So let me know what y'all think of this meta report, y'all. I can't wait for the next one. We'll catch y'all next week right back here on this channel, so that way you can keep caught up on everything. Until then, y'all, peace.